This is the post office that was incorporated with the Todd's place. John Carl was a postmaster from 1925 until the rural route was placed into the community. There is a bin back here for every family that lived in the community, and this is the window that John Carl would hand the mail out to the citizens as they came in. There is another unique thing about the post office that I'd like to mention. There, in one of the bins, there was a cigar box. And this is the box that John Carl kept his past due bills in to people that he had credited in the store. He sat in a chair right in front of me most of the time during the day when he wasn't busy reading his Bible. And he could see out the window there, and when the mail carrier, the rural mail carrier, would bring the mail, he also delivered the local paper, the Lenore News Topic. And John Carl, when he saw that mailman arrive, he would lay his Bible down and get out of his chair, and by this time he was in his 80s of years, and he moved very slowly. He kind of shuffled his feet as he walked, and it took him some time to get out of the store, across the parking lot, and across the road to the mailbox. Also took him the same amount of time to make his way back into the store. First thing he'd do when he'd get back into the store, he'd open the paper to the obituary column. And if he saw a name in the paper that was the same as the name in this due bill box, he would look that bill out and tear it up and throw it into the waste can, and then slowly make his way back into the to his chair and finish reading the paper. That is one of the things that really impressed me as the type man that John Carl Todd was.
One of the things I do remember so much about Mom and Daddy was when I was 8 years old, and the 40 flood, excuse me, 40 flood had come, and Nina was in Stony Fork at that revival, and I wasn't afraid. I don't know if the older children were or not, but the water kept getting up higher and higher around the house, and Mom and Daddy said, well, maybe we better get out now. I guess because I was the youngest child, Daddy put me on his back, and we walked up through there by the store. It was sitting in a different direction then. And I remember my feet being in the water, and I just wasn't scared at all. And we went to the church and slept on the pews that night. I do remember that was such a sweet memory for me.
But Dad, he never did get out of patience with us. He was real happy in the store all the time, and in the last, I guess, at least 20 or 30 years, he wasn't real busy, and he had this Bible. You go in the store, usually he would have this Bible open on his lap like that if he wasn't busy, if he wasn't doing anything. Or if he didn't have it open, it would be lying beside his chair on the table. But he just about wore that Bible out.
What you're seeing now is the dip, I guess you would say, in the floor, where it's almost worn through. John Carl used to tell us that floor was worn through by people standing there and begging for credit, and at the same time they were shuffling their feet as they were asking for credit.
What about the cradle he bought that I heard about?
Oh, yes. He was married a couple of years and no children came along, and he came in one day with a baby cradle on the back of his truck. And Todd saw that, and it just tore her up. And she said she cried and prayed, and soon after that, Nina was born. So.
I hadn't heard that.
Gonna tell him about Dad taking me to get my driver's license when I was 16 years old. He let us, I guess
He did me too.
He let me and Sadie both, we learned to drive. There wasn't many girls. Back then, that was about 1946, and there wasn't many girls got their driver's license then. But he let me learn to drive. He would take me to North Wilkesboro with him once in a while. He had a red pickup truck, and he would let me drive that truck. And you didn't have to have any permit or anything. You just learned to drive, and he took me over to Lenore, and I got my driver's license when I was 16 years old.
You didn't have to take a test?
No. Well, you had to take a test, but see, you didn't have to get a permit like they do now. He was real patient. Daddy was real patient.
He always was, like Riley. I remember when he took me to get mine. What's that man's name? Joe Spencer?
Spencer.
And I think I scared that man to death. Because when we come back into town, I had to park and
Parallel park.
yeah, parallel park. And I think I pulled straight in. But I remember Daddy telling him in the store that he gave that man a jar of sourwood honey so I'd have my license. I remember him saying that.
$3.
$3.
Driving.
Yeah.
You remember when you got yours?
I got mine driving a school bus.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Dad, he kept a ledger of everything, and these things right here he called due bills. Somebody would bring in a chicken. I think some lady brought him the same chicken twice. He bought it twice. Anyway, here's one 1928, October the 11th. I was about 4 months old then. Anyway, it says, Mr. Todd, Mr. J.C. Todd, please let Jeff Barnett have $1.50 and I will pay it. This is from W.J. Coffee, who had a credit there at the store. And that he would, he didn't have any money. I don't reckon he had money then, but he would give them this bill, and if there's some left over, they could bring it back and spend ever how much they got. It usually wasn't much. Here's one for 80 cents. Here's one for, will you please pay Harrison 10 cents for me? J.R. Cottrell. And here's another one for $1. But they would use this instead of money. He'd buy eggs, chickens, and he even bought beeswax. And in the fall of the year, he'd buy greenery. Some guy'd come in and haul it off. And me and my brother would have to pack it in wet moss in wooden boxes. And they'd send it up north somewhere for decorations. But anything they could get to make a penny or two, because that's during Depression times.
And when he would buy chickens, he'd put them in those chicken coops on the porch. And did he take those chickens to Wilkesboro and sell?
Yeah.
I guess he